I don't know if I'd ever seen a Game Boy. All I knew was my mind was just spinning. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because this man has a Pidgeotto in his hands.
Hello everybody, welcome to another Game Talk. My name is Keith.
My name is Will.
Last time...
Are we fancy 40s American accents now?
I was trying to push the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy from SpongeBob.
Ooh, yeah. But that is kind of like... We're about to get sidetracked already. There's like an old school American accent that we've lost.
Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, defenders of the deep.
That's it.
Yeah, I like it.
What are we here talking about today, Keith? This one's your idea.
We're talking about games. I rarely have a Game Talk idea. I also really have Tank Talk ideas. I'm more of a wind me up and watch me go kind of guy, I think.
Yeah.
I have ideas and I like them. But I feel like I spend a lot of time on single ideas. I know Brandon is like, he's just pumping them out. There's a crank up in Brandon's head.
Brandon's mind works on like 4 levels.
It does.
At all times, I think.
It does.
Yeah.
He's a good man. Man, this... Shout-outs to Brandon. Sorry, I'm just looking at our waveforms, and for some reason, the mic's picking up real loud. I'm really hoping everything's okay.
Might be all those people outside.
It could be. We're talking about games today, Will, because it's called Game Talks, but I just had the question, and we've broached the subject before in other talks, about what got you into games. I want to ask a couple questions. I just belched, and I apologize. I want to ask the first question, what is the first game you can remember playing that wasn't... Oh, I'm playing something, like, for me, I don't know. Like, what's the first game you played? Game you picked
Literally
up?
the first video game I can think that I played was Pokemon Blue or Pokemon Red, one or the other. Yeah. I
think, and we can talk about that more, I want to go through my question. So first question is, what game did you pick up? We'll talk about Pokemon. And the second one is, what was the moment where you decided or thought, I think I'm going to be doing games for a long time. I don't think I'm going to leave games behind whenever I get older. I think games are going to stick with me. Games are going to be a thing that games are just something I do rather than it's something I like to do, but if something else comes along, I don't. When was the moment when you're like, games will be part of my makeup?
Staple of my existence.
Yeah. So let's talk about Pokemon first. So your first game you played, and I'll talk as well, but first game you played was Pokemon Blue.
Okay, so to properly explain this, we got to go back to the mindset and the cultural landscape of 1998, 1999, 2000, which was, if you were under 10 years old, you knew what Pokemon was, and you knew what it was in 3 or 4 different forms. You knew Pokemon cards, you knew the Pokemon TV show, you knew the Pokemon video games, you knew everything. You knew Pokemon cereals, you knew Pokemon ice cream. Pokemon was everywhere.
You had the Pokemon grape jelly jar that I had?
Yep, we call it Pokemania, actually.
Pokemania.
Pokemania was at its height in the late 90s. / maybe 2000, 2001.
It was.
And it's one of those things where my first memories involve Pokemon just being a thing. The game wasn't the first thing that I encountered. It was probably the TV show. Maybe even it was a box of cereal, and I said, that Gengar looks really cool. I wonder what he's from. But I remember, I knew what Pokemon was. I probably watched a little bit of the TV show. And then one day, it was the summer before I started first grade, I believe. And I was going to this daycare for the first time. I'd never been there before. Super nervous. I have a little bit of social anxiety now as an adult. As a little kid, terrified when my mom was going to leave me somewhere.
Sure.
Didn't like it, especially with a bunch of strangers, like a big crowd. Like, I was terrified. I walked in and I see this. This is probably not as soon as I get there, but at some point during this day, I see this kid sitting over at a table, and we're inside, and there's probably 6, 8 kids around him, and they're watching something, and he's holding this thing in his hand. I'm like, what's going on over there? And I walk over, and they're like, I hear someone say something about ooh, he's about to get a Pidgeot. His Pidgeotto's evolving.
Ooh.
You know who this kid is?
Who?
Friend of the show, Kevin McAbee.
Oh, my man, Kevin.
And this is when I met him. And he's sitting there, people are watching his Pidgeotto evolve into a Pidgeot.
On his Pokemon throne.
Game Boy. On his Game Boy. I don't know if I'd ever seen a Game Boy. All I knew was my mind was just spinning. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Because this man has a Pidgeotto in his hands. He has a Pidgeotto in his hands, and it's evolving, and it's his Pidgeot. Yeah. His Pidgeotto is evolving into a Pidgeot. I was so, how do you have a Pokemon? What is this thing? How do I get one? I don't know, what the timetable is, but I know very shortly after that I got a Game Boy, because Game Boys came out in 1989, and they were still going strong in 1999, 10 years later. So they were probably pretty cheap by then. So
Right.
it was a pretty easy impulse buy. I was like, yo, Mom, give me So I got Pokemon Red, I think, because Kevin had Pokemon Blue. And I got Red. And then very shortly after that, I think in the September, like this is probably like June. And then in September, so this is in the build up to Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Sure.
So yeah, that was the first game I played. I'm sure Kevin helped me beat it because trying to be 5 years old and play through Pokemon Red and Blue, there's some like very like arbitrary, like how are you, like I don't understand how anyone figured it out without looking it up kind of things. Like where do you go, what do you do? But yeah, I got through it, and yeah, those are basically my first. I got a PlayStation probably that Christmas after they got me the Game Boy, but even then, like Game Boy was always my main video gaming console just because of Pokemon.
Sure.
Like before I was a gamer, I was a Pokemon gamer.
Okay.
Like gaming was not. It was all about the Pokemon. I was here for the Pokemon.
Hat.
Yeah, I eat the hat. That's why I'm wearing this car right now. But yeah, what about you? What's your
Same.
first,
I don't know if I can pinpoint to Pokemon. I can remember whenever growing up, being very small, and we had, which I assume was my dad's. I don't think it was bought for me, because my first memories are that a Super Nintendo existed in our house. I have some of my earliest memories are in our downstairs cabinet, underneath the little TV we had in like our downstairs room. There was a Super Nintendo, and it had the little gun with Duck Hunt, and it had Super Mario.
Sure, that was a Nintendo.
Oh, excuse me. So
Yeah. Ooh,
not Super
dang.
Nintendo.
No, so that came out. That was definitely your dad's then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had the Duck Hunt gun,
Yeah.
and we had the Super Mario Brothers,
Uh-huh.
original Super Mario Brothers, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't remember ever having any different games. I don't remember my dad being like bringing home games or whatever.
Yeah.
It was literally if you're downstairs, you're either playing Super Mario Brothers or you're just playing Duck Hunt. I sucked at Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt never was good at it, but I did love shooting at that TV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I played Mario, and I probably sucked at Mario too. I wasn't very good at it. I was a little boy. But those are my first memories of video games. But I don't remember video games. Video games was more of it was on par with, do you want to play Frisbee? Do you want to throw the football? Or do you want to play Mario? Like it wasn't like this is a thing. It's just, this is an activity.
Yeah.
This is one of the many things I
Not a
have
passion.
to, yeah, this is one of the many things I have to do. And I don't know when the jump was made from the Super Nintendo to the Game Boy, but I imagine it was very similar to an experience like yours because I did have to go to daycare. My parents split up when I was really little, and even still I had to go to daycare before that. Before they split up, they both worked. But it doesn't matter that they split up, I guess, for the story, because I would have been in daycare either way. But I was in daycare, and I don't have a specific memory like you have. But I'm sure that me and Patrick Gilmore, I don't know if Patrick's watching any of these. Shout
outs to Patrick Gilmore.
Yeah, shout outs to Patrick Gilmore. We talked about Patrick Gilmore before on the show, haven't we?
In Blue to Black, yeah, we talked
Blue
about
to
it,
Black,
I think.
we talked
Or no,
about
we talked about him in the top 10 where we talked about Smash Bros. Yeah.
We were close friends for most of my childhood, all the way up to like 6th grade and a lot of high school. That we were very close, but we were definitely our closest in the early years, like kindergarten and elementary school years.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, daycare, because we shared a daycare together. We were both in daycare. I don't know if he had one. I don't know who had one, but I'm sure that I saw a Game Boy. This is and I discovered it because as a parent, you're probably not looking for what's the new technology I can buy my kids. Certainly not back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
But I imagine I saw it and I was like, I would like one of those. And it's probably similar to what your thing is that by that time it's probably easy to buy. So I got a Game Boy and I had Pokemon Blue. And Pokemon, and we've talked about this before, I think, but Pokemon Blue is a game that, yes, it's tough to beat, especially being small. When you're young and you don't have the cognitive skills to figure out Pokemon, it's hard to beat. And I can remember like finally beating it. I don't know how I got there. I don't know if I looked something up. I don't know if someone helped me. I don't know how that happened, but I beat it. And I told my dad I beat it. Like I was ecstatic. Like it's over. I did it or whatever. I probably ran in there and told him. And later that week or something, Dad came home with a trophy. It was like this big. It was like tiny. It was a little plastic bottom. And looking back on it, it is probably the cheapest item he could have bought. Not because he's cheap, but just because like I'm a little kid. He's not gonna go out and get a trophy made. It's just a gesture. But it was like this little plastic black base and a little silver top that was glued onto it. And around the edge, it had a printout that was stuck to it that said, like, this award presented to Keith Millender for completing Pokemon Blue or whatever.
Oh my gosh, he's an official.
And I was like, I cherished that thing. That trophy was, I don't know where it is now. It's probably in a drawer. It probably didn't survive, like, all the moving around with college and everything. But on the day I graduated college, I know that trophy was sitting on a shelf in my room at my dad's house.
Oh,
Like it was like I know it was there. So that was. I don't know. I don't think that's when I was like, games are going to be my thing. I really like games. But later on, I know my granddad bought me a Nintendo 64. I played Mario 64. I played Star Fox. And I don't think there was a moment where I thought games are going to be this big deal for me. Because I was an only child for like these parts of the time or whatever, especially when I was with my mom. But most of my game development, I was an only child. So it wasn't like I can go, and we lived out in the country or whatever. We lived way out, so it's not like I can go to a friend's house and hang out with them. Yeah. Like if my parents were doing something with me outside, I have to find something for myself to do. If my parents weren't playing with me inside, I have to find something for myself to do. So I was big into action figures, and I got into video games. And so video games was a cool way to spend time whenever you're by yourself. You don't have a brother or sister or whatever. So I would say Nintendo 64. We haven't talked about what made you think that gaming is going to be something you're going to be into for a while, but I'll finish this up.
You go ahead.
Anyway, Nintendo 64, but I don't think gaming became a thing where I was like, I'm going to be playing games for a long time until the PlayStation 2 era. Because I remember just great Sly Cooper on PlayStation 2, Jack and Daxter I played a good bit, and PlayStation 2 was whenever I went from like, whenever I was playing games. It's whenever I stopped saying, oh, that's a game that's out, I'd like to buy it or whatever, like just going and searching around, to actually saying, there are games that I want. They're like to plan out what I want, like to be like begging my mom. Until then it was like, I want a game. Yeah. Mom would give me a game or whatever. Yeah. But then it was like, I know what I want. I'm developing tastes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's M-rated games that I'm not allowed to play. I'm going to do all the begging I can to try to get an M-rated game because I want to play I remember Prince of Persia was a game that I wanted to play really bad for some reason because you could run on walls and cut people up. Ooh, like there was just that's the PS2 era was whenever I went from games are fun, I'll play whatever, to I'm developing a taste. I know what I want and I'm going to keep going with this. And so I'd say that's the era that it started in. But I think you had more of a specific moment.
Yeah, I was really into the PS2 era, but it was kind of just like a trivial way to spend time, like you said, even then for me. I guess I'm a little bit of a late bloomer in regards to video game sophistication. But like even some of the PS2 games are some of my favorites of all time. Like you said, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank was my favorite. Like Sony.
Ooh, didn't mention
IP.
that, but yes,
love Ratchet and Clank. It's like they're like Pixar movies, but with guns. They're hilarious. They're really funny games actually.
Wonderful.
And then the Jack and Daxter series is really good. And then can't go without mentioning Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
PS2 classics.
Spider-Man 2 I'd also like to mention. Big deal for me.
The only amazing licensed movie game ever made, probably. Yeah. But then it was probably when I was about 13. When I was 13 was when it's kind of like a perfect storm kind of thing because there's a specific video game that I can remember being like, wow, this is an art form. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life probably. And that was BioShock. And I wish you'd played BioShock so we could talk about it. But it's very political and it asks a lot of questions about society. And around that time when I was 13, I was reading a lot of I was really into the idea of dystopian futures. Like I read 1984 when I was around 13, 14. I read like Brave New World, stuff like that. So just the idea of like a dystopian society was primed to capture me in the form of a video game. And just the fact that it's an underwater city and just all the visual fidelity that goes into that, just how good everything looked, and just it put you in this world in a way that I'd never really experienced in a video game before. And since then, I've experienced it a lot. I think because maybe I'm more open to it.
Sure.
Part of it. It's probably also because video games are becoming a lot more in depth. There's a lot of different kinds of games you can have. There are some games that are focused just on story. Yeah. Which I don't think was even a thing in the PS2 era. There were no walking simulators in the PS2 era. No. So the video games were evolving around that time, and I think the Xbox 360, PS3 era for me is when video games became like an art form, and it was with BioShock, and it was with Mass Effect, which I never played personally, but I watched my friend Evan Williams play it a lot, and just like watching him play it, I knew there was something to it. Like watching him with all the dialogue decisions, like he's like building a character here, he's building relationships with people, like it was really cool. So it was kind of a 1-2 punch of like playing BioShock and watching someone else play Mass Effect that I was like, wow. And it was because that was whenever I started being able to play M-rated games probably too.
Yeah.
So like if I had played some M-rated games on PS2 that were really trying to do, push boundaries and stuff, I might have had this awakening earlier. But for some reason, whenever I got the 360, it was just kind of like my parents were like, you know what bad words are. You can play bad video games now.
Yeah.
So like that's when I started playing that. And Fallout 3 was kind of the year after BioShock. Fallout 3 came out, and it wasn't like in the political kind of way captivated me, but it got me in the sense that like video games can affect my emotions, like not just affect my mind, but Fallout 3 affected my emotions. Like going back and playing Fallout games now, they've kind of got like a sense of humor to them, but that was lost on 13-year-old me. I was just confronted with the horrors of the possibility of nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah.
And like just nuclear weapons are real. This could actually happen. Like it affected me on an emotional level. So like that era, 2007 to 2009 was like me becoming a seasoned gamer, I would say.
That, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and that's how we'll wrap up, is why it can hook you. Why a medium like this can go from, this is an activity, to this is a part of who, this is an interest of mine, this is part of who I am, this is a thing I do. I think you hit it on the head with the whole emotion thing. Like, if all something does is give you a quick laugh, that's the reason I don't really care about comedies. If nobody ever made another comedy film again, my life wouldn't change.
Yeah.
It's because I don't really care about them anymore.
Yeah.
I can make myself laugh or whatever. Like, I can talk to friends and laugh. Like, I don't need you to make me laugh.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing about a comedy movie for me, is all it is a media, it's a reason for me to laugh. I don't care about the story. I laughed a lot at The Hangover when it came out. I do not care about that story.
Yeah.
It's not a story. It's not an affecting thing. But whenever a medium can affect you emotionally, whenever you go and inhabit another world, and you kind of give yourself over to it. It's like something that can take you places. Like when a film or a game feels like it's taking you on a journey. I think that's the difference. And whenever you get to the point where you're like, I'm open to this. Like whenever you step on that road, like whatever truck passes by that I like the look of, I'm hopping on and I'm going on a ride.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than just standing on the side of the road and watching them pass by.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it, is that whenever you decide, like, not only is this fun, but I want to be present for what happens here. I want to be present for the stories. I want to be present for the emotional attachments that I'll have, is whenever it becomes a big deal, I think.
Yeah. I never want to miss a Last of Us style game.
Yes.
I never want to be in a point in my life where I'm not playing video games and I just miss The Last of Us.
Right.
That would be terrible.
It would be.
Yeah. So this was fun, Keith.
I agree.
Very good discussion.
I like. We'll do some more retrospectives. We'll do some more talks like this in the future. When we think of good questions. But let us know, how did you get into games? What was the first game you ever played, and what was the time where you realized this is not just a thing that I do, but it's a hobby. It's something I'm going to be into for a long time. Let us know that, and as always, please be sure to like, to comment, and to subscribe. And we love you very much.